So in this video, we're going to explore the mix view in more detail, and in particular, we're going to take a look at how to add effects. Now, I know how you've seen in other videos how we've taken tracks and then we've added some effects down here in the device area. So with this device chain, like I've explained, you can add anything here and it determines what type of track it is. For example, if you're just adding effects, it's an audio track, but if you load up an instrument on it, it transforms it to an instrument track. So we've got this device chain and we add devices on it. But now let's take a look at the mix view. So I'm going to hit tab to jump over to the mix view, and you can see the devices or effects that you've added on here. Now I just want to jump over to this drum track. I'm going to solo it, and it sounds like this. It doesn't have any effects. So let's add some effects. How about adding a compressor just to even out the dynamics on those drums? I can either click here or down here in the device chain to add an effect. I'll click this, it'll bring up the browser. And from now, I'm just going to use the search functionality. So I'm going to hit compressor, and I want the Bitwig compressor. So this is this device here. You can see that is a Bitwig one. And I'm going to open it up, and we've got our compressor. I'm just going to play this back and tweak the settings and just get some slight compression that's happening. So the makeup gain is applied, so it's going to make up for any gain loss from the compression. And I can increase the ratio, pull this threshold down, and I can see how much compression is happening over here. So this is before, and then with some compression. Also, if I click here, I can get some presets. So how about this brick in your face? That's some heavy compression that's happening there. As you can see, there's quite a high ratio. So I'm just going to pull this down. Okay, so there we've got an effect. How about adding a reverb? So the chain is a serial chain, so it's going from here and across. So I can click here to add a reverb. I'll just search for reverb, and then I'll add that and click OK. So this is just the default preset that comes up with this reverb. I can change the amount by using the mix and increase it to have more reverb. But generally with effects like this, like delay-based and reverb effects, guys like to use them on a send effect. So let me show you how to use a send effect. So I'm going to click on this and delete it. Now I've got a send effect here. So here I can add an effect. So I'm going to click here and type reverb and go for the same thing. So there's a reverb. I can click on it to open it. Now generally when an effect is used on a send, the mix is set to 100%. So now if I go over to the drums, I've got this reverb send over here, and I can increase the amounts of reverb. Now, if you want to add another send effect, what you need to do is go to add and click add effect track. So that's going to create another send effect. And on here, I'm going to add a delay. Just the delay 2, just a stereo delay. The mix is set to 100%. I can play back my drums and increase the delays. Now, that is on the tracks over here. But as you'll see, you've also got all your tracks here, and you can adjust the send levels. So I'm working with this drums track, and I'm adjusting the send levels here. So if I unsolo this and play it back, I can add some delays over here. And on the raids, I can jump across to the reverb. Maybe add some reverb on some of the other tracks, onto the roads. And as I stop playback, you can hear that tail of that reverb. So that's working with sends, but let me show you something else. What I want to show you is how you can group effects together. So let's just delete everything and get back to what we were. So I've just got this compressor on this drums track. Now let's say I want to add some other effects onto this track. Let's say after the drums, I want to add a delay. So I'll add the delay 2, and there really isn't any hard rules if you want delays as an insert or as a send. It'll depend on the song. Maybe in the song you want to add a delay in the inserts effect and mix it in, and other times you might want to add it as a send effect. So I've got this delay, and let's add one more effect. Let's maybe say a chorus. So I've got the chorus here, and I'll click OK. Now I've got 3 effects. Now what I can do is select the name of each one and just hold down Shift, and then I can right click, say group, or use a shortcut Control G or Apple G. Now what this does is it groups all these effects into this container here. So it's an effects layer containing the effects. So there's the compressor, there's the delay, and there's the chorus. And as you can see at the top here, here's a little brace showing you what's included. So with your effects chain, you can have the container. Within the container, you can have your effects, and then everything can be summed and you can add another effect here. But you can use some remote mapping for this. So with the effects here, I can click over here and it's got a gain and a mix, but I want to go for some other things. So I'm going to add a presets page and I can assign some things. So maybe I want to assign this to the ratio to have more compression. I want to assign this to the wet mix on the delay, and I want to assign this to the wet mix on the chorus. And just to make more sense, I can rename these. So I can say delay, I can say chorus, and I can say compressor. Let's just say comp for short. So now if I play back and solo that track, I can increase the amounts of delays, chorus, and the amount of compression. And as you can see, you'll see those parameters getting adjusted. Maybe less compression here, more compression, and delay and chorus. So you've got a lot of complexity. Now, let me show you one further thing. So I'm going to close that chain. What you can see is I've got a chain here with compression, delay, and chorus. But I can add another chain. So I'm going to click here, and let's do something else. So let's go to the Bitwig effects, and let's add something else. Let's add a bit crusher. So here we've got a bit crusher. Then after the bit crusher, I want to group some effects. So you've got 2 little things here. As you can see, that's the bracket. If I click the plus sign, it's going to include effect and that layer for the effects. So let's go for something else. So Bitwig devices, effects. Let's try something else that we haven't tried yet. Let's try flanger. Okay, so I've got 2 effects here that are grouped in. I can also map those. So let's map that. And let's say with this, I want to map the bit crushing. And then over here, I want to map the flanger. And here's the interesting thing. If I play this back, here's the bit crushing. And here's the flanger. But I've also got levels for this. So I can pull down that bit crushing and flanger, or I can pull it up and pull down that. So basically what's happening here is I've got a parallel chain going into a serial chain of effects. So this is the parallel chain with the compressor, the delay, and the chorus, and that's all in serial. And then here's a parallel chain that I can mix in differently, going with the bit crusher and then the flanger. So that's just showing you some of the complexity that you have with adding effects and what you can do. You've got inserts, you've got sends, and then you can group things together and create some nice complex effects layers.